My name's Ken Turmel. I'm an artist, historian, and preservationist for Route 66, sometimes nicknamed the Land Runner for all my many travels around the United States on America's 2-lane highways. And this here is called 66 and More. It represents 2 years of my life traveling on Route 66 from Chicago to Los Angeles. If you could imagine this, a blank sheet of paper, and I airbrushed the 8 states of Route 66 on this artwork, and I meticulously picked out postage stamps that were issued, some of them in 1926, and I chose these stamps like the state bird and flag, and state flower, and state flag, and state hood stamps for all 8 states, and all the automobile stamps, things that you would normally see on Route 66 or relates directly with the 8 states. And after I prepared the artwork, I hand carried it during the rest of the 2-year period of time into every post office, from Chicago Central all the way to Santa Monica. Now, unlike other stamp collectors or people who collect postmarks on envelopes, this is not a cut and paste project right here. The original artwork actually did travel the length of Route 66, and I brought it into every post office. They placed the postmark directly onto the artwork itself until it blossomed mile after mile into the collage that you see today. And I'd say there's about 28,600 miles of travel back and forth up and down the road during that time. Reason being is that many of these postmarks that you see with pictures on them are official U.S. postmarks. They're called pictorial postmarks, and they're used to celebrate a certain event. For example, here at the Clinton Museum where we're at today, their grand opening was September 23rd, 1995, and the U.S. Postal Service provided the museum with a postmark for the grand opening of the museum. So naturally, that was the very first postmark that I put on the artwork, and then it blossomed from there. And these pictorial postmarks are issued at different times of the year. For example, the museum postmark. So that's why I couldn't just make this all in one fell swoop. I had to constantly jog back and forth up and down Route 66 to these different events that were happening throughout the year. And over the 2-year period of time, this is what it turned into. And it's actually, since each postmark was inked in its own city, the artwork actually represents a little piece from each town on Route 66. A little bit of their own ink, and it's probably one of the only pieces of art that I've been told that actually traveled the length of Route 66 in its creation. Some of the highlights that I really love about this artwork is there's a little town of Supai, Arizona. Now, even though this is not directly on Route 66, the only way to get to this Indian reservation town of Supai is by traveling on Route 66. There's no cars in Supai, Arizona, and there's no roads. The mail actually still goes by mule every day, for it's nestled 8 miles down into the Grand Canyon. So the artwork was actually transported on mule to the post office down there. And hence the reason why it's called 66 and More, because I've added a little more postmarks from little sidebar trips on Route 66. All the state capitals of these 8 states are on here too, even though some of them aren't on Route 66. Route 66 is an adventure of a lifetime that really describes true Americana travel and the times and the morals of yesteryear, and meeting these small town community members and postmasters and people that would come and visit the post office. In fact, in many of these small towns, the post office is the main gathering place in these very, very small communities, because everyone always meets there each day to get their mail. And so I met lots and lots of very interesting people during the 2 years, many of which I asked them if they would grace the artwork with their signature. And I was most pleased and honored to have met Bobby Troup, for example. He wrote the song Get Your Kicks on Route 66. And I met him, and we visited at his home in the San Fernando Valley shortly before he passed away. You know, they nicknamed this the Will Rogers Memorial Highway. So I thought it was pretty necessary to find a Will Rogers stamp. And of course, Will was way before my time. But I did meet his only surviving son, Jim Rogers, and he signed right next to his dad's stamp. So as you can see, it's during my travels, besides stopping at post offices and seeing the icons of the road and the historic old filling stations and things like this, I got to actually meet people that lived their lives on the road or had a big influence of other people's lives on the road. Now, not everyone had the nationwide fame as Bobby Troop or Will Rogers' son, Jim. I have Indian chiefs and governors that I met that go where Route 66 passes through Arizona and New Mexico, and that was really an honor meeting the tribal members of these small communities, and it was certainly a blessing for me to have them grace the artwork with their signature, just to be a part of the project I was doing. This artwork, I never knew what it was going to turn out to look like, since it was just pieced together mile by mile until it blossomed into this. And having all these postmarks and all the signatures combined onto one piece really made things special. Enough so to where the museums and other collectors were contacting me to obtain lithograph print copies of the artwork. So naturally I had to make a certain amount of prints, and so I chose the number 2,448, the length of Route 66 mileage-wise. So in essence, there's one print for each mile of Route 66, each one signed and numbered.